Hello dear children, how are you all? Yes. So, you all know that we are discussing about the reproduction in plants. And in our previous class, we have discussed about the definition of reproduction. Yes, what is reproduction? Yes, the reproduction is the process in which the parent plant or the whatever, either it is an animal or any plants, it is the process of giving birth to the young one of their own kind. So there the plants or animals, they give birth to the young one of their own kind, means the kind that is belong to them. So that we call as the reproduction. And in the reproduction in the plants, so there are two types are there. We have discussed yesterday only, that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So what do you mean by this asexual reproduction? Is the asexual reproduction means here the reproduction takes place without seeds. Okay, so without the seeds, other than the seeds, other parts of the plant, if it is involved in the reproduction, then that kind of reproduction we call as the asexual reproduction. And there are different types of asexual reproduction are there. So for example, the vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, spore formation. So these are some of the the type of asexual reproduction. There the reproduction process takes place without the seeds. And now we are going to discuss about the sexual reproduction. So what is this sexual reproduction? So already we have discussed about this also. So sexual reproduction means here the process of reproduction takes place with the help of seeds. So by the seeds, if the new plants are produced, then we call that type of reproduction as the sexual reproduction. So here the seeds play a very important role in the reproduction. Okay. So this is what the sexual reproduction. And now in the today's section, we can discuss in detail about how this sexual reproduction takes place in the plants. And you all know that the flowers are the reproductive parts of the plant. And these are the attractive parts of the plant because the petals of the flowers are made by various colors. Right? Am I right? Yes, the petals. ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಫ್ಲವರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ರಿ, ಅದರೊಳಗೆ ಪೆಟಲ್ಸ್ ಏನಿರ್ತಾವೆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕಲರ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಾವೆ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್ ದ ರೋಸ್, so varieties of color petals will be available. So likewise, if you take the hibiscus or China rose, so there also you can see the colors like white and red. So like that, the various colors of petals you can observe in the different plants. So since the petals are filled with the varieties of colors, the various colors, then the flowers are the most attractive parts of the plant, as well as these are the reproductive part of the plant. And here the flowers are having two parts. So one is the pistil and another one is the stamen. So these are the main two parts of the plant which are helpful in the reproduction process. So the stamens are the male reproductive parts of the plant and the pistil are the female reproductive parts of the plant. So there are two parts are there in the plants. Those parts which involve in the reproduction process. So they are, the one is stamen, and this stamen is the male reproductive part of the flower and the pistil is the female reproductive part of the flower. And you might have seen many how to dissect the flower also, to observe all these parts whatever I have written, drawn on the board. So now later I will explain about this also. So if you take the China rose is common, the hibiscus you can find anywhere. So like that you just take the flower of China rose, or if it is possible you can take the flower of petunia or the flower of mustard, so that you can observe the parts by dissecting it. I will show you how to dissect the flowers and all. So there, when you dissect, you can observe the parts of the flower. And some flowers, they have both the male and female reproductive part. So they are called as bisexual flowers. The flowers which are having both the flowers which have both male and female reproductive parts. Both male and female reproductive parts are called bisexual flowers. Okay. See, some flowers, they have both the male and female reproductive parts in a same flower. So such flowers are called bisexual flowers. ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರ್ತಾವ್ರಿ, ಮೇಲ್ ಮತ್ತು ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟಾಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಪಿಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಎರಡು ಸೇಮ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಒಳಗಿದ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಂತ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ಗೆ ನಾವು ಏನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಬೈಸೆಕ್ಸುವಲ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್. ಬೈ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಿದು, ಟು. ಸೊ ಬೈಸೆಕ್ಸುವಲ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೇಲ್ ಮತ್ತು ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ bisexual flower. So just see, flower which have both male and female reproductive parts are called bisexual flowers. Okay. And for example, we can say the China rose, petunia, and the mustard. So these are some of the examples for bisexual flowers. Okay, just take the definitions of this. Later you can draw the diagrams also. Just take the definition. So the flowers which have both male and female reproductive parts are called bisexual flower. Example what we can give, China rose or hibiscus. That's what I am telling you that. And petunia and mustard. And next one, some flowers are there, they have either any one of the part of the, means the reproductive part. So such flowers are called unisexual flower. Flowers which contain any one of the reproductive part, only one. Only one reproductive part. So that may be either stamen or pistil. Are called unisexual flowers. Unisexual flowers. So example we can give the cucumber, is the corn, papaya and cucumber. Corn, papaya and cucumber. So they have only one reproductive part, either the stamen or pistil. So such flowers are called as unisexual flower. So here the term uni means one. So the flowers which contain only one reproductive part. So either it is the stamen or it is the pistil. One flower ಒಳಗ ಯಾವುದಾದರೂ ಒಂದೇ reproductive part ಇತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೇನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ unisexual flower ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Because ಅದರೊಳಗೆ ಏನಿರ್ತೈತಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು ಸ್ಟೆಮ್ either stamen or pistil. Stamen ಆದ್ರೂ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ, pistil ಆದ್ರೂ ಇರ್ತೈತಿ. And that of the same plant. And these unisexual flowers, they may be present in the same plant or they may present in the different plant of the same kind. ಈಗ for example ಏನು cucumber flower. So cucumber flower, suppose if it is having any one of the reproductive part in this, either stamen or pistil. ಇವು ಎರಡರೊಳಗ stamen ಆದ್ರೂ ಇರಬಹುದು, pistil ಆದ್ರೂ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಈ cucumber flower ಒಳಗೆ ಐತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ ಆಗ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೀ stamen ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅದಾವ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಓಕೆ, in the flower, in one plant of the cucumber, suppose only the stamens are there. So ಈ stamen ಇರುವಂತ flowers ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಒಳಗ ಇವು ಬರೀ stamen ಇರುವಂತ flowers ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಆದ್ರೂ ಇರಬಹುದು. Or the plant may have, means the plant which it is not having only one flower. So many flowers will be there in the same plant. So likewise, that may have the both flowers. Means some flowers may have only the stamen and some flowers may have only the pistil. So like that flowers that may present in the same plant. The different flowers which contain only pistil or only stamen may present in the same plant of the cucumber, or that may present in the different plants of the same kind. ಈಗ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು cucumber plant ಒಳಗ ಇರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಸೇಮ್ cucumber plant ಒಳಗಾದ್ರೂ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಬಟ್ ಏನು flowers, they contain either stamens or pistil. ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು reproductive part ಏನಿರ್ತೈತಿ flowers ಅಲ್ಲಿ present. So such flowers we call as unisexual flowers. Okay. So now we can discuss about the reproductive parts of the plant. So here what you can see on the board, these pictures. So these are the reproductive parts of the plant. So I will write here, these are reproductive parts of a plant. Reproductive parts of a plant. So here the diagram what you are seeing here, this is what the stamen is. This is stamen, and the diagram which you are seeing here, this is pistil. Okay, and these two are the reproductive parts of a plant. So this is stamen and this is pistil. And again the stamen have different parts. So they are, this is anther and this is filament. Anther and filament. So this stamen, we know that this is the male reproductive part of the plant. And this stamen having two parts, one is Okay, and this is style, this is ovary, and the ovary contains one or more ovules. If you dissect the flower, you can observe the ovules inside the flower. So these are the parts of the pistil, the female reproductive part of a plant. So here it is having stigma. So the upper part, this we call as the stigma, and this is called as style, and here is the ovary, and inside the ovary it contains one or more ovules. So these are what the parts of the pistil. So these two are the reproductive parts of a plant. This is stamen, the male reproductive part, and this is pistil, the female reproductive part. Okay. And see, to form the seeds, or if the reproduction process to be taken place, so this anther contains pollens, I said. Yes, the very light yellow color pollens will be there. So they have the protective coat, and they are very light in weight. Even they can carry by the wind. ಈ pollen, anthers ಅಲ್ಲಿ pollens ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅವು ಲೈಟ್ ವೇಟ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಸೊ ವಿಂಡ್ ಕೂಡ ಗಾಳಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತವೆ, ಹಾರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುವಷ್ಟೇನು ಲೈಟ್ ವೇಟ್ ಇರ್ತವೆ. So that they can be carried through the wind. Okay, so they are present in the anther. And how the transfer of anther takes place to the stigma, so that we can discuss here. So you can observe these diagrams. So this is what the transfer of pollen grains, so that we can call as pollination in flower. Pollination in flower. So how the pollination takes place? So see, this is what the diagram of the flower. So here this is what the stigma of a flower. Okay, there are two flowers are there. This is to show the pollination in flower. Just I will write it a bit downside. Pollination in flower. So see, it is the stigma, and here also this is what stigma of this flower, and these are the anthers. we can discuss now. So, in some flowers, what happened? The transfer of these pollens, takes place in the same flower. If it takes place in the same flower, then we call this as self-pollination. Self-pollination. If the transfer of pollens takes place from the anther to the stigma of a same flower, then we call this as the self-pollination. ಈ ಪಾಲನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಸೇಮ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಆಂಥರ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಪಾಲನ್ಸ್ ಅದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ zygote formation ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಏನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. If the pollens of the same flower from the anther to the stigma, if the pollens are transferred from the anther to the stigma of a same flower, then we call it as the self-pollination. Suppose if the transfer of pollens takes place from the anther of other flower to the stigma of the another flower, the pollens from a different flower are reaches or transfer to the stigma of the other flower of the same plant or the flower of the other plant of the same kind, then we call such pollination as cross pollination. Okay, so these are what the two types of pollination. So one is what? Illenagati anthers, the pollens from the anther. If the pollens from the anther to the stigma are transferred in the same flower, same flower ಒಳಗೆ transfer of pollens ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದೇನು self pollination. And suppose ಅದು ಒಂದು ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಇಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಗೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಏನದು ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ಆ ಒಂದೇ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಬೇರೆ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಗಾದ್ರೂ ಆಗಿರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಸೇಮ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಅದರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಅದೇ ಸೇಮ್. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇದು ಹಿಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಎರಡು ಹಿಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ವು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಆದ ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಪಾಲನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಹಿಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದು ಅದರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಒಳಗಿನ ಬ್ಯಾರೆ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹಿಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಒಳಗಿನ ಫ್ಲವರ್. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಲನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಟೂ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ pollination. One is self pollination and another one is cross pollination. Okay, is it clear? Right. So now we can discuss about the fertilization, how the fertilization takes place in the flowers. So here we can see the diagram. So this shows the fertilization or we can also call this process as zygote formation. So see, just observe this diagram. So we know that these stamens are the male reproductive parts. So here the anther, they contains the pollen grains. So these form the male gametes. Okay, so anther contain the pollen grains. So these form the male gamete and the pistil, the female reproductive part. It contains stigma, style and ovary. So here it contains one or more ovules and the female gamete or the egg which is produced in the ovary of the pistil or the female reproductive part. Okay, Male means the pollen grains. Okay, the pollen grains. This is pollen grains. The germination takes place. Pollen grain, and here this is ovum, the female gamete, and see, this is the pollen tube. Okay, so see how the germination takes place or how the fertilization takes place. The cell which results after the fusion of the gametes is called zygote. So later when the fusion of male and female gametes takes place, so that time a cell is formed that we call as the zygote. And the fusion of male and female gametes to form the zygote is called the fertilization. So how can we define the fertilization? The fusion of male and female gametes, male and female gametes to form the zygote. To form the zygote is called fertilization. So both the male and female gametes, they fuses to form a zygote, that is called as fertilization, and the zygote develops into an embryo. Again this zygote, this will form into an embryo, which is the baby plant, okay, which contains. So here see what happened, the pollen grain, the male gamete, so that will enter through the stigma. So here the ovum, the female gamete will be there. So this is the embryo, this is the ovary, and then the pollen tube, the pollen grain, it transfers through the pollen tube, and then here the fusion takes place. Both male and female gametes, the fusion takes place and it forms the zygote, and which contains the embryo. Okay, so see how the fruit formation takes place. Fruits and seed formation. So after this, when the fusion process takes place, after the formation of the zygote, and the ovary, it will develop into the fruit. The ovary itself grows into the fruit, and other parts of the fruits are fall off. Remaining parts, ella ovary ಏನಾಗ್ತೈತಿ fruit ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತೈತಿ. ಉಳಿದ parts ಎಲ್ಲ ಏನಿರ್ತಾವಲ್ಲ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾವು ಬೀಳ್ತಾವು. And the fruit is ripened ovary. So since the fruit is obtained or the ovary is converted into fruit, so we can say that the fruit is the ripened ovary, and the seeds develop into the ovules. So ovules will be there in the ovary, and then they will be formed into the seeds. And these seeds contains embryo in it, and it is protected by the seed coat. And you might have seen that some of the fruits are fleshy. Okay, like mango, papaya, oranges. So they are fluffy. So some fruits are dry. Okay, and hard, like nuts and almonds. Okay, some they are what? Dry, and some they are fluffy. And how the seed dispersal takes place. So that we will discuss now. Seed dispersal. Is it clear, the fertilization and zygote formation? So now you understood that how the seed formation takes place and how the seed dispersal takes place, because on the earth we can see the same kind of plant in other regions also. The same kind of plants we are not get in the only in one area or only in one region. We are not finding the same kind of plant, but the same kind of plants, they are present in other regions of the earth. So how it is possible? Who carry the seeds to other parts? ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಒಂದು ಮಾವಿನ ಗಿಡ ಐತಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆ ಮುಂದೆ ಒಂದ ಮಾವಿನ ಗಿಡ ಐತಂತಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆನೂ ಏನಿರ್ತಾವೆ ಮಾವಿನ ಗಿಡಗಳು ಇರ್ತಾವೆ, ಹೌದಾ? ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮನೆ ಹತ್ರ ಒಂದು ತೆಂಗಿನ ಗಿಡ ಐತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಒಂದ ತೆಂಗಿನ ಗಿಡ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆನೂ ಏನಿರ್ತಾವೆ ತೆಂಗಿನ ಗಿಡಗಳು ಇರ್ತಾವೆ. Then how that seed they are dispersed, how they move from one place to another. So that is what we can discuss now. Seed dispersal, how the dispersal of seed takes place. Seed dispersal. So the seed dispersal, this maybe takes place either by the wind or by the water or by the animals. So the seed dispersion takes place, and these animals, water and the air, they are called as the dispersal agents because they help to disperse the seeds. So see, if all the plants are grown in a same place, what will happen? Just imagine, ee ella plants ಒಂದ ಕಡೆ ಬೆಳೆದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತೈತ್ರಿ? So there may be the lack of nutrients. So there, when the population is more, then there should be the competition for the food and some of the basic things. Okay, so if all the seeds are growing in the same region, so then the competition arises for the nutrients, for water, and means for everything. What are the basic requirements are there for the growth of the plant? So the competition of that takes place, so that the plant will not grow well because the lack of nutrients takes place. ಈಗ ಒಂದ ಕಡೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅದಾವ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಬೇಕು, ಬಟ್ ಇರೋ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ವಾಂಟಿಟಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಅದರೊಳಗನೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳಕತ್ರ ಏನಾಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತೈತಿ, ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಿಗೂ ಸಾಲೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟಿಗೂ ಸಾಲೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನದು, ಇನ್ ಟರ್ನ್ the growth will be inhibited. Okay, so for example, think that if you are 4 members in a house and if there is only one chapati or one roti, then how 4 members can sufficient by only one, right? So like that the situation takes place. So when the seed dispersal takes place, not all the seeds are grown into new plants, only the seeds which get the sufficient amount of nutrient, they only can grow into the new plant, and other seeds will be, means they may become the humus. Okay, they may be undergo decay, so that they form the waste, and again that waste also useful only. So likewise the new plants, they are growing, so that the seed dispersal takes place. I said it takes place by the wind or by the water or by the even by the animals also. So if you go to any gardens or forest areas, so after coming from there that place, you might observe some of the seeds are sticking to your clothes. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಗಾರ್ಡನ್ಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಏರಿಯಾಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರಂದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂದು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗಿರ್ತೈತಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡ್ರೆಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಸಮ್ ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸ್ಟಿಕ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಸೀಡ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಂಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತಾವೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾತ್ಸಿಗೆಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ದ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೀಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಪರ್ಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಅಂಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದರೆ ನೀವೇನಾದರೂ ತೆಗೆದು ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ನ್ಯೂಟ್ರಿಯೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಕ್ಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಗೇನ್ ದಟ್ ಸೀಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಗ್ರೋನ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ನ್ಯೂ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್. And likewise the seeds can be dispersed by the wind. So first one we can by wind. So for example, the very light seeds such as the drumstick and maple, so they are having the wings and they are having the seeds. Just open your textbook, page number 139. you can find the seeds of drumstick and maple. Yes, so these are the seeds of drumstick and maple. So see, the seeds will be there here and they have the wings so that they can be moved in the air. Okay, so they can be drumstick and maple. So these are what we call as the winged seeds. So they are very light in weight so that they can move in the air and they can grow where they get the sufficient amount of nutrients. And some of the seeds are there like hairy seeds of ack and fruit of sunflowers. So hairy fruit of the sunflowers are there. So they grow in the wind. Okay, and some of the seeds are there, they can be dispersed by water. So which are those? For example, the seeds like coconut. Yes, the coconut seeds. So they are made with the fibers are there on its the fibers are coated the seeds. So that since they are made with the fibers, they are having air in them, so that they will make them to float in the water. So sometimes if you went any coastal areas and all, so there you can see the floating of coconut in the water. So this is what the coconut they disperse by the water. And the seed dispersion is also takes place by the animals. So for example, the seeds like the xanthium and urena, so they are having some hairy structures on them, or what we can say some plants, the xanthium and all, they have hooks, okay, on the coat, means on the upper coat of that seeds, they have the hooks like structures, so that when the animals and when the other animals, so they are feeding, means they are grazing usually, so in that time that maybe stick to the hair of those animals and then they can be dispersed from one place to another place. So like this, by these all the ways, the seeds are dispersed from one place to another, so that we can able to observe the same kind of plants in the other region of the earth. Okay, this is how the seed dispersal takes place, and we discussed how the seeds are formed by the sexual reproduction. So this is about your reproduction in plants. Okay, so I hope you have understood this topic, and with this I will give you how to dissect the hibiscus flower. So now you can see that. Now we can discuss what are the parts of the plant. So take a hibiscus flower, and now we can separate the epiceptals as shown in the video. These are called epiceptals. And then you just separate the sepals. You just do this with care so that any damage should not be happen to the parts. And then separate its petals. So now the sepals, the petals are separated, and now you can remove the stamen part. So it contains the filament and the anthers. So just remove. They are very light in weight and they will stick to your hands too. So just separate them carefully. So these are the stamens. So we can see the stamens there. and then see the yellow colors, we can see the pollens. The stamens contains the pollens, we know. So these are the yellow part what you are seeing, that is the pollens. And now carefully dissect this part to separate the ovary, means it is the what? It is pistil, the female reproductive part. So you can see the stigma, and now here the style and ovary will be there inside. So just you can remove this carefully. Yes, here you can see the ovary, and this is the style. So just remove this carefully, and it is somewhat jelly like substance will be there here inside it. So now our pistil is separated. Parts of a flower. Now we can discuss. See, these are the episepals and sepals. Sepals protect the flower in bud, and these are the petals, and these petals protect some parts of the flower and attract insects or pollinators. And this is stamen, anthers and filaments are there. Anthers and filaments you can see here, and stamen is the male part of the plant, and anther produce the male sex cells, that is pollen grains. It is pistil. So stigma, style and ovary are the parts. Yes, I hope you have understood how to dissect the flower, and you can observe the parts of the flower. So likewise, you also take a hibiscus flower or any mustard flower if you get, and dissect it according to the video, and then paste all the parts in your notebook. Okay. So with this I will conclude my today's class, and in the next class we can discuss the next chapter. Thank you. Have a nice day.